All right, good evening. Welcome to Tux TV. Gonna do let's do the intro. We'll get to the show. Welcome to Tux TV. I'm your host, Jimmy Tux. Hopefully everything's going on. I'm doing things a little spontaneous. I basically just learned that there was a new video dropped by Useful Charts, so I figured I'd do a open the room. Let me post a link for adding some folks, and you can come in and say hi. Join me, and tonight's topic is about this video that I just saw. Let's pin this. So, pinned. There we go. Welcome to join me, and let's go over this. Let's go over this new video. All right. So there we go. And let's see. Is there a way to wee? Hey Max, I killed Earl. Christopher, welcome to the show. I think you're new. I've never seen that name here before. Definitely seen Earl. We've definitely made eyes at each other. Richie Ruggs, I think that's a new name as well. Sydney, I think you've been here before, but I'm not positive. I've seen the name around the internet. I don't know if I've seen you here, though. Well, welcome to the program, one and all. I'm going to share the screen, do a little presentation. Hopefully you'll stop in and say hi. And we'll do that. Hopefully everything's running well tonight. You tap in StreamYard. Let me max the screen. Let me select this view. Yeah, I like that. And Freedom House 1984 says, I'm new. So does Christopher Fisher. James, welcome to the program. It's always good to see James. There you go. James, more than welcome to hop on. So, Sydney, I'm 61. I'm not so new. I'm in my mid-50s, so I'm right behind you. I'm steaming right along. I might even catch up. If you want me to. I'm also going to change the light just a little bit so that I'm not as pale. There we go. You know, my dad always used to say, eat your vegetables. They put color in your cheeks. And then he'd say, who wants orange cheeks? As he fed us carrots. Or green cheeks. As he fed us green beans. James and I are about the same age. Yes. James and I are pretty close to the same age. Well, beautiful. James, jump on. You might like this. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. I have no idea. The topic tonight is atheist denominations, quote unquote. I might have said that backwards. So to be honest with you, Useful Charts dropped a video today. I have no idea. Hopefully this isn't copyrighted. We'll see. Let me put this up here so that I can see it up here. Bifocals suck, by the way, with two screens like this. That's what I get for being old. So, yeah, that's the topic. Let's see what they have to say.
Hi, this is Matt Baker. Today, I'm going to show you a family tree of atheist, free-thinking, and humanist organizations. This will be the last video in my series on religious denominations, although in this case, we are actually now dealing with non-religious denominations.
All right. Is there such thing as a non-religious denominations, or are there just, I don't know. I feel funny accepting quote unquote denominations. So I feel like there isn't even a denomination to have, let alone multiple ones. Max says, I already hate this. That's yes. 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 I know. I do too. I do too, Earl. Like as soon as I saw this, I was like, do I watch this and grumble and groan, or do I get my live reaction? And then maybe Matt Baker from Useful Charts can see my disdain or my enjoyment or my best friend James' disdain or enjoyment.
Phenomenon.
Exactly. Let's see. How do I position so that you and I are watching the video? There we go.
I'm excited to find out what denomination I'm in.
I guess I am too. I have no idea. I really didn't know I could be partitioned into a denomination. So I'm not a current member of anything that I know of. I make direct donations to the Street Epistemology and Freedom from Religion every once in a while. That's about it. Does that place me into the equivalence of sitting in a pew and putting some money in the coffer when it gets passed around?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to reason that out.
Yeah. Well, it's 26 minutes. I don't normally speed it up when I'm doing a live stream because when I play it back, I listen to my own recording when I put the chapters in at 1.5 or 1.75 speed. So I definitely don't like speeding it up while doing the thing so I can speed it up later. And so anybody can enjoy it and it's not too fast and you have to slow it down and speed it up for whatever. But yes. All right. Thanks, Max. Yes, perhaps it is Sydney. Perhaps we'll see. We're just going to have to see. James, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing it right. I have a low-grade fever, so whatever that's worth.
A low-grade fever means you're fighting something usually.
Yeah. So, ironically, I like having low-grade fevers. I sleep better when I've got that. It's just that when it goes another degree or two above that I feel miserable, so I'm reaching for it.
I am normally somewhere around 97, low 97, mid 97 area as my normal temperature. So if I'm 95.9, I don't feel well. And I actually have low-grade fevers more than I have high-grade fevers. But yes, if I'm below 96, I feel like poo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty sure.
And I wish I had some Verners. I don't know if you know what Verners. You probably know Verners,
right? Yes, Verners is.
Ginger ale bold are my go-tos.
I actually get the. I actually now get the real ginger stuff. I can't remember. It's got like a tree. It's got like a pale green box to it.
Oh, interesting.
And it's real ginger. You almost have to mix it up because the ginger's like settling at the bottom. I can't remember the name of it, but I know they make sodas and tonics for mixers in the high-end mixer aisle as well. So
wow.
I can get them at Costco for a case at Costco, but I don't remember the brand name. I just recognize it by saying, the best ginger ale ever. I can get it in the South. Yeah,
Which
Werner's is pretty good. I like Werner's because it does make the tip of your nose feel like you've drank real ginger.
Yeah.
There we go, Sydney. Evolutionists.
Yeah,
Yes.
Werner's and ginger ale bowl nearly identical, very, very similar.
Yeah.
And actually, sometimes in the winter, I'll have it hot.
Interesting. I've never tried that as far as I know. Yeah, I don't know. When I have done my hiking in the South, I do enjoy a Dr. Pepper every now and again. Because they're so readily available. So, all right, let's get to this. Let's get to this.
And once again, I want to point out that I'm using the word denomination very loosely. Obviously, there is no such thing as an atheist denomination.
There we go.
But then again, neither are there any Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, or Buddhist denominations. This is because the word denomination really only works in a Christian context. However, throughout this series, I've used the word simply as a way to divide major groups into smaller divisions.
All right. Is that charitable?
I'm going to allow it for now and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about secular value sets, I would agree that there are divisions for sure. For example, there's a world of difference between Stephanie Helms's values to Pine Creek's values, right? And they're both secular. So
yeah.
In today's case, I'm being particularly tongue-in-cheek because I want to make the point that the same sort of ideological splitting and sometimes merging that can be found among religious organizations can also be found among non-religious organizations. Now, the reason...
I mean, I am not familiar with groups that have joined forces or merged. It's not like you see every day that one atheist group has bought out another atheist group just for its. Like, I just don't see that. I don't see a Calvary Temple struggling financially, and Vineyard comes to their rescue. For instance, I'm sorry. I can see Vineyard saying, "Come on over," but it's not like that church now has become that church and they've merged and they now share congregants.
Yeah,
it's all or nothing, or it's a mass exodus, or a mass following marching to the promised land.
Right.
Simus, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
It's always good to hear.
It is good to see
that beautiful regal accent from the merry old land.
Darn. Just when we talk about denominations, I have to mention just straight off, the funniest film for me, of course, is Life of Brian, and in it they talk about the People's Popular Front of Judea.
Yes. That's a perfect example. Thank you so much. That is perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever happened to them?
Whatever happened to them? Split as.
He's over there. Great.
I do love that scene. The first time I ever saw that movie, Christmas, like almost 20 years ago, I'd say, at least 15 years ago. The first time I ever saw that scene, it just cracked me up. We're the Judean people's font. Oh my goodness.
The reason why I've chosen to focus on non-religion for this episode.
Do we want the closed caption on here?
I think it helps people.
Rather than on something like Shinto or Taoism, boils down to the fact that the category no religion is actually the fourth largest religious group in the world today. And in the US, it's actually number 2.
So what? We're number 2? We're the shit.
Yeah, nuns though. And it looks like on that pie chart that it's at least the third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fairly close to the same size as Hinduism.
In fact, if you say number 2 when you're talking about religion, then you just add all the others up together, I suppose. So it is number 2 by definition.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You lose number 2 fast. That's
Who does number
hilarious.
2 work for?
Thank you, Tim Bob. That's hilarious. Non-religion isn't a religion. Yes. Is that what he said?
He called it a
He
religious
just
group.
called it a group. Did he call it a religious
He called it a
group?
religious group.
So
I would
because
call
I've
it a... Go ahead.
in the world today, and in the US, it's Shinto or Taoism, boils down to the fact that the category no religion is actually the 4th largest religious group in the world today. And in the
Religious
US,
group.
it's actually number 2. So because I've already covered Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Judaism, it seemed to make the most sense to round things off by focusing on this last remaining large group. However, I should clarify that not everyone in the no religion category is necessarily an atheist. No religion is simply a catch-all for people who don't belong anywhere else. So, in addition to atheists, it also includes many people who probably hold some sort of vague notion of God, or at least have some sort of personal spirituality. It's just that they don't consider themselves a member of any established religion. I can't really say much about these type of people, so instead I'm going to focus on those in the no religion category who do hold well-defined views, well-defined non-religious and non-spiritual views. People like atheists, freethinkers, and humanists. Now, I've already done a previous video on atheist terminology based on my PhD research, so I won't go through all that again. If you're curious to know more, just check out the link in the description. But basically, here's the bottom line. In the 21st century Western world, people who call themselves atheists are, generally speaking, also humanists and freethinkers, even if they don't use the terms. In other words, whether we're talking about atheists or freethinkers or humanists, we're actually talking about the same group of people.
So I'd like...
Each term simply
Is he going to
emphasizes
try to define freethinkers? Do you know?
I have no
Mhm.
idea what they are. Free
So
thinkers.
I would define freethinker as somebody who has no personal obligations or allegiances to what anybody else thinks. So we couldn't include a fundamentalist Christian, for example, as a freethinker because they have personal obligations to what some other people think, even if we only count the people who wrote the stories they like.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Possible?
so.
Possible definition. I think it's somewhat of a misleading term, so I would have to give. This
Yeah, I'm
guy
not a...
obviously is claiming some academic expertise, and
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the
therefore
label, but
there must be some kind of academic definition for it. But
yeah, it's generally not helpful in discussions because pretty much everybody across the board will identify as a free thinker. Even the most ardent fundamentalist will say, "Oh, I'm a free thinker." So
yeah, I mean, I'm free to think what I like. I mean, that's again
right.
definitional. So I don't, the term has some prescriptive meaning for which I have no idea because I'm not an
Oh,
academic.
sorry, Earl.
Let me look it up, I guess.
Well, while you're looking that up, my other issue, well, I have a couple issues. Actually, I have an issue with the word atheist. I have an issue with the word humanist. I don't identify as a humanist. One of the reasons is because it does feel kind of speciesist. And another reason is because I'm not really a big fan of humanity. And so if I'm not, like, why am I wearing that label? So it definitely clashes with my misanthropy.
Well, the meaning I've looked up is a person who thinks freely or independently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a good definition straight off the form. One who forms opinions on the basis of reason independently of authority. So, kind of, I guess, anarchists. Especially one who rejects or is skeptical of religious dogma. Well, okay, so maybe freethinker means anti-theist then. Or what anti-theist used to mean, I guess.
I guess there is a huge amount of us who probably, when we were somewhere in the Christian to agnostic to atheist phase, we're in the evolution of what we are. And freethinkers might be a good description of that evolution process to become an atheist or go back to Christianity even. or whatever religion.
Yeah.
Hey,
So-
Earl just got in. She was just below where I could view. And when I scroll down, I had to scroll down to see.
Move me to the bottom.
Welcome.
me to
I
the
killed
bottom.
Earl.
Yeah, move me to the bottom. So move me to the bottom so you get the good-looking people further up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put her next to me. Yeah, there we go.
That works.
Yeah. Well,
How are you?
now we
today,
can
my
make
name is Earl?
smoochy faces with each other while we're finding out what denomination of atheism we are.
Oh, man.
Splitters.
Denomination.
Stan, we're gonna have a discussion about whether Stan can have babies or not.
Well, I think you might be missing a few bits.
I want to ask, what is the name I Killed Earl based on?
It's based on a song by the Dixie Chicks.
Oh, all right.
I was Wanda.
Oh,
Did-
some
did-
examples.
If I remember that song, did he like cheat on her and she killed him for it or something?
No, he was beating her up really bad.
Oh, okay, all right.
Some examples of freethinkers. It says here, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Dennis Diderot. So, and Thomas Page, Years of Reason, strongly challenged the Bible's claim of authority. Just to say, so I think it's more about challenging dogma. So that leads me to think it's anti-theist, or what we used to call anti-theist back in the day, and it's since changed the definition. But
I would definitely be in the category of anti-theist almost more than being an atheist, because I do claim that more likely than not that we have a creator. I just don't think it's any of the gods that are presently claimed to have been creators.
I see. When back in my day, anti-theist meant being against religious dogma.
Yeah.
That
So
all
basically-
religions are harmful.
Yeah, effectively, yeah.
Yeah, but I can imagine.
I mean, I guess, yeah, religion. Yeah.
I
The
can
dogma
imagine a
is-
lot of theists saying that they don't like dogma.
Mm.
So
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I think
guess that's why the definition was changed.
right. So I don't know how to label myself. Usually I go by atheist, but basically I feel like the word theist implies a certain reverence, a certain awe, humbled at the feet of something either literal or abstract. It can be a
Worshipping or
concept.
something.
So I'm too jaded and cynical to be considered a theist in any case. So if someone were to convince me, I know I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, that there must be some universe creator, I still wouldn't count myself as a theist because I wouldn't call it a god. I wouldn't put that crown of reverence upon its head.
Yeah. Even if like the God of the Bible did exist, showed himself and did exist, I wouldn't worship the fucker.
Right.
Or herself.
Yeah, not without an alibi.
I mean, this is one of the things that I just don't care what people call an atheist because I fit into both categories of the definition, of course. But, those are negative views. They're not positive views as such. So, that's why I just don't understand why people have got such a problem with the word atheism. Right? I'm surprised because certainly in this country, the humanist society goes back quite a long way into the 1800s. And so, that's that's the focus that I would always wish to put on my beliefs, is being a humanist rather than saying that my positive belief that God doesn't exist is important. It just is not important. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Let's get rolling.
A different aspect of the worldview that most atheists hold. So, for example, the term atheist focuses on ontology, which deals with what exists and what does not. Western atheists generally hold that there is no such thing as the supernatural, meaning that everything that exists is a part of the natural world. So, no God or gods, at least not in the way that these terms are defined by major world religions. In contrast, the term freethinker focuses on epistemology, which deals with how we obtain knowledge. Freethinkers hold that science and reason are the best tools for the job, and they reject any claims that are based entirely on tradition, holy books, or any other form of supposed divine revelation. Finally, the term humanist focuses on ethics. Humanists hold that people can be good without God, and they advocate that we should all work to improve society, not because we were told to by God, but because doing so benefits humans. So with that under our belt, we're now ready.
All right. Definitions,
So
they're
far,
important.
he's doing good.
Well,
to look at the...
Sorry, I have to disagree, I'm afraid.
Really?
Look, well, I mean,
considering I didn't think it was that bad. I was expecting a hell of a lot worse.
I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it's just that distinction between ontology and epistemology is just not. I mean, atheists apply to both of them, as far as I can see. Most atheists give an epistemological reason as to why they disagree with.
Yeah, I think this is under the umbrella of atheism.
Philosophical atheism, I guess you might say, but then that's another thing altogether. Right, so it's the positive claim that God doesn't exist as opposed to the negative claim of disbelief in God. Right, and I think he's drawing the distinction there and saying epistemology is why we have this, disbelief in God. It sounds to me that's the free thinker version versus the ontology of saying you do not believe that God exists. And I think that distinction is not as clear cut as he's trying to make out. But anyway, it's personal view.
Sydney Raptor says, I can be just as well be called an ichtheist. Religion is icky. I couldn't agree more. Max liked that one, but I start that one so we can pull it up later. Yes. The definition of definition. Yes. I don't know how many believers know that. William Lane Craig uses it like it's a hot potato quite a bit on his podcasts.
And some theists I know, or apologists, I should say, defend their religious belief based on a Mott and Bailey fallacy based upon ontology and epistemology. A lot of pre-suppers will say to you, they will try and say everybody else's view is epistemologically wrong, whereas my view is ontology, or my view is based on ontology of God and it's right. So they'll ask you to disprove God on ontology, which is almost an impossibility, and they will disprove your atheism based upon epistemology. It's a very clever little get round.
The family tree of atheist denominations. But before we do that, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, MyHeritage.
Oh.
Most
folks, watch Matt Baker's channel and enjoy his sponsor, MyHeritage. Fast forward to the good stuff. 14-day free trial, folks.
Although atheism can be found in ancient times, particularly in Greece and India, most atheist movements today trace their roots back to the modern Age of Enlightenment, which occurred approximately between the years 1650 and 1800. It was sparked by the earlier Reformation and Scientific Revolution, both of which started in the 1500s. The Reformation had led to the Roman Catholic Church losing its position in Western Europe as the final authority on, well, just about everything. And the Scientific Revolution led to the realization that certain knowledge could be better gained through things like observation and experimentation. So during the Age of Enlightenment, many scientists and philosophers continue to push the envelope even further. Leading thinkers started to question the reliability of the Bible and whether or not God was involved with the day-to-day workings of the universe. However, it's important to note that at this point, very few thinkers actually considered themselves to be atheists. In fact, most figures associated with the Enlightenment were what we call deists. A deist is someone who believes that God created the universe but no longer intervenes in it.
Okay. But I would argue that I'm probably more in that camp, but I definitely don't profess it. But I do think that the insignificance of the creation, speaking of number two, a loose one at that, for all we know, I have made the comparison that we've just been flushed and we're organisms living on a swirl of some sort, just suspended in some variation. And we're just an organism on a floating ball of poo.
Doesn't sound appealing at all.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, the amount of fecal matter that is everywhere, like, it's hard to deny that this is a perfect creation of some sort. The other day somebody said some variation of I think it was Oz. He said some variation of if the Muslims are considering things as dirty and you have to be clean for God, I'm like, well, this is the problem of dirt. This is God's problem of dirt then. Like, this place is filthy. There's fecal matter everywhere. We're on a swirling ball of poo, and potentially, who knows what the ocean's made of.
Yeah, I've been saying forever that WALL-E is a documentary.
WALL-E's a documentary. Yeah, that's funny. That is.
Piles of garbage on top of garbage on top of poop.
Anyone else want to admit to being a deist?
So what I call it is the great mystery. The thing about the human mind is we're incapable of envisioning, picturing, explaining anything that we haven't actually witnessed ourselves. So if you watch a sci-fi movie and there's some kind of monster in it, now it'll always be made from pieces of creatures that actually exist in the real world. And because we can't picture anything that we haven't seen an example of already. And so I think the reason that these different religions grasping to try to give the great mystery some kind of identity and some kind of form, etc., is because they're drawing from elements in the world that they've observed and experienced. So I just call it the great mystery, and that's just what it is. So I don't know. I'm not a deist in that I don't feel that sacred or reverent regard for whatever the mystery is. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's my cynicism and being jaded. I don't know. And then beyond that, I don't know. I don't even know what it means to be a theist or a deist compared to somebody that just says there's something. I don't know what the difference between those two ideas would be.
Mm-hmm. Simon's put, I would kind of imagine a philosopher.
No, that's for a little later. That's
a little later. Okay.
He'll get to it soon.
Got it.
I'm sure. That's the first avowed atheist.
However, over time, as religious freedoms grew in both Europe and America, it became less and less important for thinkers to keep hold of a belief in a creator God. Thus, eventually, anyone who focused exclusively on science and reason, rejecting any notion of divine revelation, became known as a freethinker. You might have noticed that earlier in this video, I placed a flower above the word freethinker. That flower is a pansy, and I used it because the pansy eventually became the main symbol for the free thought movement. This is because the name comes from the French word penser, which means thought. It received that name because in late summer, the flower bends over as if it is deep in thought. The free thinking movement reached its peak between the years 1859, which is when Charles Darwin published his Origin of the Species, and 1914, the start of World War I. This period is known as the Golden Age of Free Thought, and it's when the earliest surviving free-thinking organizations were founded. The first was the National Secular Society in the UK, founded by Charles Bradlaugh. He was the first person to request to affirm that he would tell the truth, rather than taking an oath on a Bible, which eventually led to new laws around this issue. The word secular was actually a new term in the late 1800s, having been recently coined by George Holyoake. It's based on the Latin word saculum, which had previously been used by the church to refer to worldly things, in contrast to holy things. Holyoake and Bradlaugh.
I didn't know any of this. This is very educational for me. No one?
Chose to use the word secular because at this point the word atheist was still seen as problematic. Plus, they weren't really interested in attacking religious beliefs. They just wanted equal rights for those who didn't hold them. However, since freethinkers were still being ostracized, Holyoake helped start the Rationalist Press Association in order to publish free-thinking ideas. It still exists today, but is now simply called the Rationalist Association. In the US, one of the very first free-thinking organizations was the National Liberal League, which was eventually reorganized as the American Secular Union. Its most prominent leader was Robert G. Ingersoll, who earned the nickname the Great Agnostic because of his passionate speeches advocating free thought. The word agnostic was also brand new in the late 1800s. It was coined by Thomas Huxley because he felt that people should not say they know that which they have no scientific grounds for. During the golden age of free thought, another related movement began, known as the ethical movement. It would lay the foundation for what later became known as humanism. The movement was started by Felix Adler, whose father had been one of the leading rabbis in Reform Judaism. He founded the New York Society for Ethical Culture, which brought together atheists, deists, and agnostics, but also theists, who were dedicated to the principles of free thought. The goal was to create a sort of new religion that focused on deed, not creed, and pretty soon other ethical societies were established in cities throughout the US and UK. In the US, these eventually joined together as the American Ethical Union, and in the UK as the British Ethical Union. Around the same time, a church known as the South Place Chapel
Nara.
Touche. Touche. That tickled. That's good.
Oh shit, that is funny. That's
Well
funny
done.
stuff.
Well done.
I don't think that's gonna be on here, but if it is, I'm totally giving Nora credit for that one. That one's beautiful. Oh my. Yes.
renamed itself as the South Place Ethical Society. It still exists today as the Conway Hall Ethical Society. It claims to be the oldest free thought organization in the world because it can trace its origin all the way back to 1787. But back then, it was part of the Universalist movement, a branch of Christianity that eventually merged with the Unitarian movement to become a new religion called Unitarian Universalism, which I talked about in my Christianity series. It wasn't until 1888 that South Place Chapel officially joined the free-thinking ethical movement. So I still hold that the National Secular Society, founded in 1866, is the oldest free-thinking organization. The American Ethical Union still exists today. However, the British Ethical Union eventually rebranded as the British Humanist Association, and then Humanists UK. So let's now back up and look at the roots of humanism. Initially, the word humanism referred to the ideas made popular during the Renaissance, which were based on resurrecting many ancient Greek and Roman ideas. However, in the early 20th century, it took on a new meaning, representing a branch of the free-thinking movement that, like the ethical movement, wanted to start a sort of new human-based religion. The first organization to use the word humanist in this new way was the Humanist Fellowship, established in Chicago in 1927.
Woohoo, Chicago. All right. Any comments? Any questions? Any masturbation? Nara?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Humanist Society used to be based at Conway Hall. I don't know whether it still is or not, and that's why he's saying that. So that's kind of why I thought he's calling it the Free Thinkers Society or Free Thinking Movement. I don't know, but as I say, that used to be like in the 80s, at least. Anyway, they used to call themselves the Humanist Society, and they were famous for being at Conway Hall. So I'm a little confused by some of this history. It kind of it's not wrong, so I'm not saying that, but it's certainly different to how I remember it anyway. Conway Hall. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah.
In 1933, it published a document called A Humanist Manifesto, which today is known as Humanist Manifesto 1. It starts like this.
The time has come for widespread recognition of the radical changes in religious beliefs throughout the modern world. The time is past for mere revision.
Is that Professor Dave?
Of traditional attitudes, science and economic change.
That's the guy from I can picture him. Something religion. Let's talk religion.
All you white people sound alike to me. So.
Which have disrupted the old beliefs. Religions the world over are under the necessity of coming to terms with new conditions created by a vastly increased knowledge and experience.
That's the guy from Religion for Breakfast.
In every field of human activity, the vital movement is now in the direction of a candid and explicit humanism. In order that religious humanism may be better understood, we, the undersigned, desire to make certain affirmations which we believe the facts of our contemporary life demonstrate.
There were 15 affirmations in total, 2 of which were: religious humanists regard the universe as self-existing and not created, and religion must formulate its hopes and plans in the light of the scientific spirit and method. 34 people signed the manifesto, many of them Unitarian ministers, which is why this first Humanist Manifesto still uses the term religion, something that would change with the next version. Anyhow, the original Humanist Fellowship in Chicago eventually became the American Humanist Association, which is what it is called today. And a similar fellowship in Montreal eventually became Humanist Canada. Its first president was Henry Morgentaler, who is famous in Canada for his role in the abortion rights movement. However, in the 1970s and 80s, the direction of humanism changed significantly. In 1973, the Humanist Manifesto 2 was published, 40 years after the first one. This time, all the language...
Has anyone read either of these, by the way?
I have not.
I've skimmed them, looking for specific things.
This is how ignorant I am. I didn't even know that this existed.
Positioning humanism as a new religion was dropped, and instead of being mostly signed by Unitarian ministers, it was signed by a wide range of intellectuals, including the co-discoverer of DNA, Francis Crick, science fiction writer Isaac Asimov, feminist Betty Friedan, Reconstructionist rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, psychologist B.F. Skinner, and many more. The driving force behind Humanist Manifesto 2 and its more secular language was a man named Paul Kurtz. He eventually formed his own humanist organization called the Council for Secular Humanism, combining those two words together for the first time. He also founded an organization called PsyCop, which stands for the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. So not only was he interested in challenging the claims of religion, he was also interested in challenging beliefs in things like ghosts, UFOs, and psychic abilities. For over a decade, these two organizations operated separately, but in 1991, they merged to become the Center for Inquiry. Unfortunately, near the end of his life, Kurtz was basically forced out of his leadership position there so that a new generation of leaders could take over. Now, before I move on from humanism, I want to point out that a Humanist Manifesto 3 was also created in 2003. And in addition to the 3 manifestos published by the American Humanist Association, the Council for Secular Humanism has also published 2 of its own, a Secular Humanist Declaration in 1980 and Humanist Manifesto 2000 in, 2000. Finally, Humanists International, which is the umbrella organization for humanists all over the world, has also published 2, the Amsterdam Declaration of 1952 and the Amsterdam Declaration of 2002. These 7 documents are the closest things you're going to find to creeds within the atheist community. And this is where my PhD research ended up being a bit controversial. Atheists, of course, will argue that they do not follow any creeds. They simply lack a belief in God. However, in my paper, I argued that while atheism itself is not a fully fleshed out worldview, complete with set beliefs, most atheists, at least in the 21st century Western world, tend to adhere to the beliefs of humanism, which is in fact a fully fleshed out worldview, complete with set beliefs.
Okay.
How does he know that it's most?
Humanism and atheism are close enough that this applies?
I'm not a humanist.
It's what I said earlier. I think that the atheism is... I tend to think that it doesn't matter whether you use the laxist view of atheism, which is the majority of atheists that I've ever come across, or versus my own particular one, which is the positive belief that gods do not exist. It doesn't matter which one of those you get. That's still independent of my absolute ethical beliefs or moral beliefs, because atheism is not a moral position,
Right.
which is that of humanism. So I just don't, and I'm a naturalist upon that. Not all atheists are naturalists either, because atheism doesn't say anything about naturalism per se. Right? It's only against particular forms of supernatural gods. Right? And if you call something like a pantheist, for instance, would call the universe God. Right? Well, my naturalism isn't against that. So, I just think that this comes down to a lot of definitions. It's why I had a problem early on with him saying what freethinkers were. I understand now that there's a historical use of the word freethinker, and he's enlightened me on that for sure. And some of those freethinkers are God believers, so the Universalists, for instance, and Unitarians presumably also. I think this, like normal, the conflict within the atheist community comes down to the definition of the word rather than the actual state of your positive beliefs about other things, right? Like I don't know if anybody remembers New Atheism, but it got quickly
forgot. They talked about it all the time.
Yeah, it got quickly dropped, fairly quickly dropped, because it was trying to herd a bunch of cats into a particular position, and that's not going to happen within atheism, simply because of the diversion of the way people use the word. And I don't want to say anybody's wrong to use the word the way they want to use it.
Yeah. I will say that when you come out of being a theist thinker and you're in that transition to being an anti-theist or an atheist, that there is a moment you have to realize that we need to take care of each other, because there's no longer this thing taking care of us. That you no longer believe that there's this thing taking care of us, and you do need to find the betterment for man for humankind to flourish, since you're no longer on this sect of belief that you can just do a prayer and ask for a miracle, and it'll all work out.
And what is that? The
this
dirty
too shall
rags
pass.
thing?
Yeah, this too shall pass is no longer, no longer relied upon as an atheist, as an anti-theist.
That is my biggest thing about why I don't care about how people use the word atheist, because it doesn't address that issue. That issue is the main issue with trying to coordinate a society to live in some relative harmony when we have so many disparate views that have to live within it. And that's why I'm a humanist, right? Because that does that job. And why I don't want to call atheism anything to do with that particular project. Okay, so this is one of the things that I find theists really find it difficult to understand, because they think the opposition is atheism. Whereas in fact, no, that's not the case, that the opposition is atheism. The opposition is your positive views on how society is run. That's the conflation that theists make, right? Believing in God means we have this way to run society. It doesn't. It's just another form of tribalism as far as I'm concerned. And therefore, you still have to expand on what your particular God wants humans to live like. Okay. And so
they think that they have some kind of basis for objective morality, and they don't seem to understand that it's still based on the subjective whims of their God. And so they still have to build a moral system surrounding that subjective framework. And but they think that they're like above everybody else because God said so, but they still have to do all this interpretation and baloney.
Yeah, well, they also like to draw it as opposition to atheism, and that's just not true, because it's humanism that's the opposition to their particular moral framework from my point of view. So it's nothing to do with atheism. So when theists say, well, I'm not a theist anymore, I'm an atheist, they have this almost unwritten expectation that atheism is going to have the frameworks that theism had, right? And until you point out that those frameworks are just made up as much as anybody else's, as you say, it's subjective at the end of the day, then you're not going to get anywhere. And I think that's where the problem of being an atheist comes, or why people say, oh, well, look, though I'm not a theist anymore, I can't accept atheism. And what they really mean is, I can't see a moral foundation for atheism. And they don't understand that that's just the wrong way to make a claim, because atheists, in my view, don't have a moral foundation. One of the problems I had with people that were espounding new atheism were saying that we can have some kind of moral foundation for atheism. And I just think that that's a nonsense.
Well, that's what humanism came to step in to replace the people that couldn't just understand that we all have to live in a society, and the golden rule kind of helps everybody. So I think humanism came out of people that got rid of their religion and then didn't know what else to do because they have to have a book to follow.
Yeah,
I mean it's kind of simplistic and sort of rude, I guess, to say that, but some people need an instruction manual.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, Shelley's paper on atheism touches on it right at the end. Percy Shelley's paper, that is. And the person I put up there, Henry, Baron de Kolbach, also tried to institute some idea and thinking about it. So, again, when you talk about the deists of the previous generations, they were all headed that way. Locke, Spinoza, Hume as well. Yeah, and the founding fathers, of course, at that time in the late 1700s, were also thinking along the same line.
Yeah, so, they're all Enlightenment thinkers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To test this theory, I took a series of statements directly from the 7 Humanist Manifestos and asked a very large sample set of 17,632 self-described atheists to rank their agreement or disagreement with them using a 5-point Likert scale. The results overwhelmingly showed that the vast majority of atheists agree with the main beliefs of humanism. If you want to check out my full dissertation, I'll drop a link to that in the description. Let's now move on to actual.
So, scientifically, we think the same, therefore we are.
Yeah, I don't know why he's, I mean, because the way he worded that, it was that these people may not have even known what humanism was, but they agreed with its tenets. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they identify as a humanist.
Yeah.
He's trying to link to things that don't necessarily link.
Well,
Yeah, spot on.
but
And
is
who
it-
wouldn't disagree? I mean, I dare say you could ask the theists the same question, and you'd get similar results.
right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know?
What percentage difference is a Calvinist to a Baptist? Like,
Well, I think that if you asked theists the tenets of humanism, I think that they would agree with most of them. I don't think that they realize that that humanism is just common sense. But they think that they have a higher something that trumps the humanist manifestos and therefore is still superior. It's always hilarious to me when you point out all of the horrific shit in the Bible and they're like, this is your book, this is what you're following. But if you blindly ask them about, I mean, I've done this, you blindly ask them about, various tenets in the manifestos, they're like, well, yeah, I agree with that. Well, yeah, I agree with that too. It's like, then like,
Well, it's that
doesn't
comes down
necessarily
to-
make you a humanist, but like that's all that they're saying. Yeah.
It comes down to what you were saying earlier. The theists want to claim objectivity for their moral standard,
Mhm.
and they feel that somehow a disembodied person can do that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but there you go.
Yeah.
Well, those theists don't tend to worry about whether or not they're making sense.
yeah, they don't have to
Yeah.
rely on it that way. They just
Right.
They can't explain it, that's for sure. But then that's part of the charm of having a mystery cult. Right?
That's charitable. Yeah.
Atheist organizations, because up to now, all the organizations we've looked at have chosen to use other terms instead, like freethinker, secular, rationalist, ethical society, or humanist. Like I already said, for many years, the word atheist simply carried too much of a negative connotation.
Okay,
But
could
that
you
changed
just
in
pause there for a moment?
1963, which is
Just, I've got to say, all of these guys, splitters, that's the first thing, right? And second
Yeah.
thing is I have to go. So there's
oh,
that as
Simus.
well. But
Oh,
thank
that's
you
great.
so much for being on here. Great to see
No,
you
thank
all.
you for being on.
And yeah, especially the last one. I hate that last group, mainly because it came from New Atheism. So, and I absolutely detest that because I'm more philosophically informed than I think most of those people are. Oh well, there we go. I've shot myself in
right.
the foot.
Cheers,
Never mind.
Simus.
Thank you so much, Turks. Thank you.
Yeah.
I Killed Earl. I'll see you again sometimes. And thank you, James. Nice to see you again. Cheers.
Nice to
folks.
see
here.
you.
Bye.
when the organization American Atheists was founded by Madeleine Murray O'Hair, who later earned the title the most hated woman in America.
She was,
One of the
too.
reasons she started the organization was because of a court case she was involved in over not
She's the
wanting her
spirit
son
animal.
to have to participate in school prayers and Bible readings. That case was eventually combined with another similar case and went all the way to the Supreme Court, which ruled 8-1 in O'Hair's favor, saying that it was unconstitutional to force students to pray or read the Bible in school. Interestingly, one of the children at the center of that case, O'Hair's son Bill, went on to become a Christian and then a Baptist minister. and today is a social conservative
Details,
lobbyist, the exact opposite of what his mother was. As for Madeleine Murray O'Hare herself, she met a very tragic end. In 1995, she, along with one of her sons, as well as a granddaughter, went missing. The initial thought was that they had stolen money from the organization and taken off in order to escape their tax problems. But several years later, police concluded that the trio had been kidnapped and murdered by a former felon who had been working for American Atheists. The bodies were not found until 2001. Another major organization that uses the word atheist in its name is the Atheist Alliance
Pause that for a second.
International. It started when several local atheist
Trying to get the link.
The way he worded that was a little dishonest. The reason that the guy that was in American Atheist that he's referring to that murdered them, there was some kind of beef that and what's her face was very outspoken. She was very brash. She was rude. She was condescending. She felt very highly of her own superiority, and she essentially humiliated this guy for whatever reason, and wrote something about him in like the journal or newsletter or whatever for American Atheists, and embarrassed him. And so he kidnapped her and her son and her granddaughter, I think it was, and murdered them and scattered their body parts in multiple places. So yes, he was a member of American Atheists, but he was kind of obviously a psychopath. So I think that he's by not really explaining that, he's sort of like, see what atheists do? They're just murderers who do crime, deny God and do crime, however that saying goes. So yeah, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Here's Max. There we
Max.
go. Let's put him in the middle since he's got video on, and James is that AI art?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. The Melody Joy ran one of my pictures through an AI filter or whatever, and that's what it came
Oh,
up with.
nice. There you go, Max. Welcome to the show.
Me there.
Max, you're muted. You're muted on my end.
Hello there. Sorry, I didn't
There
turn
you
on
go.
my mic. I've been listening. It's been fantastic so far.
Yeah. We're gonna miss Simus though.
Oh yeah.
Organizations in the US decided to join together, but then eventually it came to unite atheist organizations from all over the world. It currently has special consultative status with the UN when it comes to atheist-related issues. Now, I can't talk about atheism without mentioning the so-called New Atheist movement, which started in the early 2000s. It's strongly associated with four prominent atheists, who are sometimes called the Four Horsemen: Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher
think
Hitchens,
so.
and Daniel Dennett. Around the same time, they all wrote books strongly criticizing religion, motivated in
Blessed be he. As far as I know, you're good. The only person I have blocked is Wes, because he puts in all caps
For obvious
and he talks in gibberish.
I
Or
had
at
a
least what-
run-in with him.
What I assume is gibberish. He might give a monkey a typewriter and he's bound to type a word. He might have a few truths in there, but
I haven't run into him yet, Wes.
oh my. Yeah, I think you have. I think I was on with you one time when he was he and Jay Bundy and I.
Oh, I think I know who you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes into not yet. Not yet. Nope. Blessed be he, you're fine. Just don't go too fanatical.
Curry, I think that was his name, Wes Curry.
Yes.
Yes, was
Yes.
Curry.
Yeah.
On my first solo show hosting, I made an after show, and he came on. It was about dragons, and he came on talking about how the dragons in the Bible is actually China and the 42 nuclear subs, and they're going to destroy the US. So far, so good. And then he started telling me, "Oh, that experience you had with Jesus," and it's like, "Hey, no, I didn't have any experience with Jesus. That was a weird episode." And yeah, I had to end up removing him from the show because he was just going. It's like, Wesley, no, I have never had a religious experience. I've been an atheist since I'm 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he went on Skeptics and Scoundrels here last month, and that didn't go well.
Actually, it went. I mean, Eric did a fantastic job with it. He's the only person that has engaged with him that did so kindly, and managed to get like just a little bit of something coherent out of him. Nobody else that I've seen, they, like the ACA, they routinely get him on, and it's always a clusterfuck. But Eric did a good job. He didn't know who Wesley was either, so
Right.
I think platforming him is not ethical.
Yeah.
Part by the recent 9/11 terrorist attacks. This marked a notable change within the atheist movement. Up to this point, atheists, freethinkers, and humanists mostly just wanted to have equal rights alongside religious people. But with the publication of these books, the mood switched to making a direct attack on religion, and to use a Christian term, to become more evangelistic about spreading atheist ideas. In 2006, Richard Dawkins started his own foundation to promote science over religion, although in 2016, it ended up merging with the Center for Inquiry. Around the same time, both Dawkins and Dennett helped to promote another organization called The Brights. Its goal was to rebrand atheists as brights, in a similar manner to how homosexuals have become known as gays. However, as of 2024, the term bright hasn't really caught on. Let's now move to the other side of the chart so that I can point out the freedom from religion.
I only heard brights within the last year, actually.
I'm glad it didn't catch on, because I don't think that that's a reasonable word to use.
Not only is it ridiculous, but why is he comparing being gay with being atheist? That is so weird.
I think it means I think it's a attempt to gay was originally an insult that was then recaptured by the homosexual community.
Yeah, like queer has and stuff, but
queer has also done the same thing. I think Brights was an attempt to, because I remember the point counterpoint type shows referring to atheists as, you think you're so bright, and I think it was an attempt to recapture that as a derogatory term made good.
Well, but I'm thinking about who's this guy who made this video. Like, what is his audience primarily?
So let's answer this question for Blessed Be He. I firmly believe that if you do your religion in your own way and you practice your religion, your faith as it's intended, then you're fine. But the moment January 6th happens for me, I became an outspoken atheist, and the rug that you want to practice on, I'm going to pull it out from under you. The platform and the pulpit that you have, you now have to make it a court in which you need somebody to come up and have a counterpoint. So it's no different than a court of law in which you have the prosecuting on one side and the defense on the other. And in a pulpit, church pulpit situation, you don't have that. You have just the pulpit. And so the reason I proselytize against Blessed Be He's religion is because of January 6th. You no longer get a pass. You now have to prove, just as if you were in the court of law, that your God exists. So
Right.
I'm not necessarily proselytizing. I'm holding your feet to the fire that if you say it exists and it's enough for you to believe somebody else's lies and that those lies are ordained by God, then you need to put up or shut up. Anybody else want to add to that?
So it's the same kind of thing for Sam Harris. For him, it was September 11, 2001, right? That's when he's like, yeah, you don't get a pass anymore.
You no longer get a pass.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The reason I just like the conversation, first of all, and then it's because it's hard not to see everything bad that religions have done for humanity. How for the longest time they held back science, they held back progress, they murdered a bunch of people in the name of Christian love and those kinds of things. And it's the same pretty much for all religions except for a handful. And I would like people not to have that trauma. I wouldn't pretend to force atheism on anyone, but I think talking about these things might plant a seed in someone's mind who is doubting or who is trying to find their way out and see that there is a way out and that you can live your life as a normal, happy person without the need for a God, and that death is nothing to be afraid of, and that this is the life that we know for sure that we have, and we should collaborate all together to make a better planet for us and for the future generations.
Amen, brother.
Religion
Yeah.
Foundation. It was founded by Anne Nicole Gaylor and is currently run by her daughter, Annie Laurie Gaylor, and her daughter's husband, Dan Barker, who had previously been a Christian minister. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is unique in that it's one of the few organizations founded in recent decades that uses the term freethinker as the primary descriptor for its members, rather than words like atheist or humanist, which today are more popular. When it comes to the epistemology component of the worldview I mentioned earlier, there's actually a new term that's used these days that's kind of overtaken the label freethinker, and that is skeptic. In many ways, a skeptic is the same thing as a freethinker. It's a person who wants to use science and reason to gain information, rather than tradition or divine revelation. I already pointed out SciCop, which is now a part of the Center for Inquiry. So in addition to being a humanist organization, take note that the Center for Inquiry is also very much a skeptical organization. However, there are two other US-based skeptical organizations that I want to point out. The first is the Skeptics Society, founded by Michael Shermer. It publishes the magazine Skeptic. However, in 2013, Shermer became the focus of a major scandal within the atheist community when he was accused of both rape and sexual harassment.
Oh.
Shermer was never charged, but lines were divided between those who believed the women and those who believed Shermer. Atheist communities tend to be dominated by men, so the whole thing has led to some pretty serious discussions about the role of women in the atheist movement. Now, the reason why I bring this whole thing up is simply to demonstrate that non-religious communities aren't immune to the sort of problems that can be found in church settings. Already in this video, I've pointed out allegations of tax fraud, allegations of new leaders kicking out the old, and most seriously, allegations of sexual assault. The point is, humans are humans. And whenever you get humans joining together in organizations, there's going to be problems and conflicts. The other big skeptic organization in the US is the James Randi Educational Foundation, founded by the late magician James Randi. It operated the $1 million Paranormal Challenge, which promised to pay out $1 million to anyone who could demonstrate a supernatural or paranormal phenomenon under certain agreed upon scientific testing criteria. As you might have guessed, no one ever did collect the $1 million. Now, before I go, there's one more group of people that some of you might be surprised
I
to
would
learn.
I would like to point out, I just found out on Sunday that there is a gent in New Zealand who is basically got a similar offer for 5 million, whatever the currency is in New Zealand. That if they provide evidence, just as James Randi did here, I think his name is something Ing, Neil Ing, or something like that. I'll update that. I'll verify what it is, and I'll get back to you.
Also deserve a place on this chart, and that is Satanists. Unlike what many people assume, most Satanists do not believe in an actual Satan. Instead, they are simply atheists who use Satanism as a way to criticize mainstream religion and to put the focus on humans instead of the supernatural. This is particularly true of the Church of Satan, founded in 1966 by Anton LaVey. However, it is not true of the Temple of Set, which broke away from the Church of Satan in 1975. Setians believe that Satan is the equivalent of the Egyptian god Set, who they claim is a real being and the one true God. But again, belief in the supernatural is not a belief held by most Satanists. Another group that broke away from the Church of Satan is the First Satanic Church. It is run by Anton LaVey's daughter, Carla LaVey. Then there is the Satanic Temple, founded in 2012 by Lucian Greaves. While not an official offshoot of the Church of
Uh,
I'm a card-carrying member.
you are?
Yeah, it gives me
Yeah.
protections under the Constitution.
Interesting.
What kind of protection does it give you?
Well, because it's considered a religious organization, and they have an army of lawyers.
Oh, okay.
I've like for instance, when I was getting married, you have to, in North Carolina anyway, you have to put your hand on a Bible and swear this whole thing, and I used to do it, and they made a big stink about it, and then they finally somebody found a little pocket Constitution to let me swear on, but I refused. It's like there's no fucking I'm putting my hand on that thing. Like, it means nothing to me. But they made me swear on something.
The amount of times I've had to explain the whole satanic temple thing, especially to Muslims, it's uncountable. And it's like, oh, they're worshiping Satan. It's like, no, dude, go to the website and realize that it's a sort of a parody religion, because just by doing that, they get the same rights. If they were just a group of non-religious people, they wouldn't have tax exempt status and all these things. And their struggle is good. Why do people want some kind of religions in school, or maybe crosses or symbols of their religion, but don't want others?
School programs.
And they go and they put a statue of Baphomet just to point out the hypocrisy of these things. And this is how we get the conversation rolling.
Yeah, I love the Satanic Temple for that.
Yeah, they do good work.
And
they provide help to the homeless. They do a bunch of services that churches do. Because Blessed Be He was saying here, his comment was, I don't see any atheist charities out there.
Yeah,
there are many.
There are lots of them.
And the advantage of the atheist charities is that they don't force you to hear a sermon before giving you a plate of food when you're homeless and hungry.
Right.
Exactly.
There's also a lot of Christian charities that refuse to allow atheists to participate because their whole purpose is to promote themselves for public relations, to say, hey, isn't Christianity great? Look, only Christians are doing this. So they won't let other people join unless you agree to not mention that you're not a Christian. Here's
the thing. If blessed be he, I'm sure you could do a Google search just the same as I. But here's the thing. I have considered starting an atheist charity. And being an atheist charity is not going to change Christian charities one bit. So I don't know what your perception of the argument is, but it really doesn't matter if there are atheist charities or there are not atheist charities. And the atheist charities that do exist, you're more than welcome to donate or not donate to them. It doesn't change Christian charities, Catholic charities, Lutheran charities at all. Because I know there's a mass amount of them. But that's changing in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are, as I mentioned first thing in the show, the two charities that I have is Freedom from Religion and Street Epistemology. I have donated directly to as atheist charities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been a member of Freedom from Religion for a long time.
Doctors Without Borders is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, that's considered. Is UNICEF also?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I've definitely done, because it's not Doctors Without Borders. It's really called something else. It means the same thing.
Yeah.
I know when I made the donation several times, it shows up as something other than Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, they got a few names that go by.
But it's almost like it's a French name that means the same thing.
It's Docteurs Sans Frontières. It's Doctor Without Borders in French. Yes.
Yeah, I have definitely made several donations to them and UNICEF, which I think UNICEF is considered either a secular or its intended purpose when it was started was to be a American Red Cross and Catholic Charities type of charity without the religion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yep.
Yeah. So yes, I found out that this his name is Neil Ling. What is it called? Hang on a second. Let me go back to the thing. Is Neil Ingman. And he has a 5 million New Zealand currency challenge. I don't know what New Zealand's currency is called, if it's NZ dollar. Just like James Randi did. And his Twitter is Neil Lingman. Share this instead. There we go. So give him a follow. He was on the Robert Shaw's podcast on Sunday. So that's how I found about it. So get educated like me. Go to Robert Shaw's podcast. I'll leave a link in the description. All right. Let's go back to Matt.
Satan, it sees itself as a sort of updated version of LaVeyan Satanism. But again, just to make it super clear, all three of these organizations do not believe in an actual Satan. They are atheists, which is why I've included them on this chart. Okay, so that was a look at the family tree of atheist, free-thinking, and humanist organizations. As I mentioned in a previous video, I will be eventually combining all of the non-Christian denomination charts I've made into one big poster, along with a simplified section on Christian denominations. Together, it will be called the World Religions Family Tree, and it will be made available as a poster. So keep an eye out for that. And don't forget that if you want to start building your own family tree, you'll definitely want to check out My Heritage's free offer by clicking the link in the description or pinned comment.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Well done.
There we go. Follow Useful Charts on Twitter and Insta. What a What a great it's one of my favorite channels to try to fall asleep to, because he's got a nice relaxed voice, and usually his videos are about 20 minutes long, so it doesn't go on for hours, but he does have a history of religions that's like over 3 hours. Over 3 hours. He basically put like 7 parts together for that one to be a 3 of it. And I would imagine he's going to add this one eventually to, or some variation of that. So there we go. Any final thoughts? Go ahead, Max.
I have to say, I started hating the premise of the video. By the end, I didn't hate it as much. I don't know if I share a lot of the things that I think when we try to categorize atheists specifically, it gets really hard because there's so many possibilities that you even have atheists who are spiritual and those kinds of things. So I think it's way harder to categorize atheists than religious people in general. I don't know, it gets hard, but I hated it less. So I wouldn't say by the end I would say I'm in disagreement with the video about some stuff, but no longer hating it. Let's make it clear and be a little bit generous. He makes some good work. I mean, I'm pretty sure these videos take a lot of time to do.
Yeah, I can see that. And he did make some great points, but at the same time, man, I just do not agree with the idea of saying atheism is a kind of religion and it has denominations. I mean, that's straight out of the Fundamentalist Talking Points book right there. It's nonsense. Yeah. So, I know it's like saying, well, all the non-leprechauns that I've ever met believe in using toilet paper. It's like, so what? Like, it's not a meaningful correlation. I don't agree. I don't identify with the labels that he uses. I don't know. It's not that useful to me. I just don't think that it is.
Well, that's the reason I came on, and I'm glad I did it.
Oh yeah, I'm glad we did it too. Yeah, it was
11:30, almost 11:30. So I'm gonna wrap things up, and yeah, that's true. I keep tapeworms away from our snacks.
To that whole deism thing that you were talking about earlier, I don't know.
Yeah, BS is a secular person. Person. BS. I'm missing your content. I haven't seen you. In a while, so I'm hoping to see something. And then I've got several things coming out. I have one that I've been working on for a couple of weeks that turned into 2, then it turned into 3, and who knows? I've got all the thumbnails made for it, and I've got the middle one pretty much locked and loaded and ready to go. But now I feel like I need to do a precursor to that one. Like, it's just so big. It's just gotten...
starting to sound like the Star Wars series.
Ooh. Oh, BS. Oh, don't tell me you're going to make me get a reaction video and interrupt a very important moment of my life. I would always do that. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Do you really, Max? That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I live. I grew up in the land of Blackbeard.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a big piece.
All right, what should we do? Should we do Bloody Jesus or Bowtie 8? Which one?
Of Zen, right?
And then we'll close out with Moment of Zen.
Oh, okay.
So, which one do you think? Bloody
Jesus.
Bloody Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Be very wary of your free gift of salvation, for it takes bloody Jesus. Bloody Jesus, folks.
Oh man.
Bloody Jesus.
Oof.
Oof.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Gave means bloody Jesus. He beat him from head to toe.
Yep.
And then threw him up on a chunk of wood. So he asphyxiated himself. Because obviously good gods love their children so much.
Okay.
That's what they need to show how much they love you.
Yeah.
I also find it very hard to believe that the most amazing being and our creator can only have one son. That seems impossible. But
maybe he's got slow swimmers.
He's got slow
low sperm count. he's sub T.
Yes,
I think
they have fixes for that now. I've seen it. I've seen it. Frank Thomas and what's Flutie, Doug Flutie. What testosterone bill are they've been peddling?
God has low T. I've seen
yeah. So, if God so loved the world, instead of gave, he would have hugged his son, because bloody Jesus is an evil so evil, it's seen as good.
Amen.
Amen.
Ramen.
All right. Oh, we just got Jefferson Spatchcock. I love Jefferson Spatchcock. Hopefully you haven't been waiting long. We're closing out the show, and I'm gonna let everybody say hi to Jefferson, and then we'll do our moment of Zen, and we're out.
Hi and bye.
Yeah.
Jefferson, are you working on anything right now?
Not really. I'm thinking about doing something kind of impromptu tomorrow. Well, it is technically tomorrow, but something early Saturday, Saturday morning one, but not sure which one though.
And James, you got anything? I know you do a lot of your stuff spontaneous and straight off your blog
Right.
Style.
So I don't have anything specifically planned, except that Dave from Captive Desk,
He was in here earlier.
Yeah, he wants to do something tomorrow.
Ooh.
So I'm trying to remember what the topic was. Hold on. He linked me a video. Oh, from Capturing Griftianity, 3 Sincere Questions for Atheists.
Oh, you sexy talker, you. James, stop it.
I've got some news.
Let's go, Earl.
I did a thing today. So I booked Aaron Ra to come on our short show.
Wow.
Ooh.
On Saturday, March 23rd at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That is my birthday.
That's
I'm
always
going to.
Is it really?
Happy birthday to me.
Happy
yeah,
birthday to
Aaron
you.
Ra. I can say I knew you when.
Aaron.
Aaron's a fun guest to have on.
Yeah.
I did forget one thing. I am going to be a guest on Maya Atkinson's show. I think the end of March. That's coming up. So.
And I'm putting your birthday in there too, Jimmy. Just so you know.
Awesome.
I want to recognize these top comments of the evening. Sydney Raptor had I can be just as well called an ichtheist. Religion is icky. And then definitely the comment of the evening is Nara's atheist denominations. I'm a Southern Baptist myself. That's brilliant.
That's a good one.
Pure brilliance.
Yeah.
All right. Bowtie bless to all. Everybody, thank you very much for being on the program tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
And bowtie bless to you all.
Good night.
That.
Are we still here?
Oh my god, that's adorable.